Mauricio Pochettino never sounded less like a future manager of Manchester United than he did on Sunday evening. After Spurs were knocked out of their second cup in 68 hours with a 2-0 defeat at Crystal Palace, he claimed winning such trophies was good for building egos rather than helping a club's growth. Mauricio Pochettino could not have sounded any less of a Manchester United manager in the making with his comments about winning trophies the next morning. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, whose PR has been even more accomplished than his actual football management since taking temporary charge of United, stated that his club would never pass on the opportunity to win a trophy. When Jose Mourinho was sacked just 6 weeks ago, the Old Trafford hierarchy made it clear Pochettino was their undisputed number one choice as his long-term successor. Since then, Solskjaer has overtaken him as favourite on the back of an 8-match winning streak, including victory at Spurs, achieved chiefly because of a joyous emotional fervour. Pochettino remains the best man for the United job. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the new favourite to land the Old Trafford job on a permanent basis from the summer after his fine interim reign. His body of work at Spurs, establishing them as a Champions League club on a minimal net spend, remains excellent. His willingness to promote and improve homegrown youngsters is unsurpassed in the modern game, and he always wants his teams to excite. Solskjaer's candidacy still rests on fond memories of his playing days, a winning smile, a genuine love for the club, and the feeling that he could barely be any less like Mourinho. Pochettino is believed to want the United job, although everyone knows Chairman Daniel Levy will make it testicle-crushingly tough for United to poach his man. Pochettino could not be more different from Jose Mourinho, the previous permanent Manchester United boss, so the longer the Solskjaer love-in continues, the more Executive Vice Chairman Ed Woodward will be inclined to opt for the easy life of giving the gig to the Norwegian and lapping up the appreciation of a besotted fanbase. Solskjaer simply gets United's fans. The enthusiasm with which he talks about matches of their recent past, when he was not involved, underlines the fact that he is one of them. Pochettino cannot have that same emotional bond with United supporters, but when you speak to him, especially when the cameras are not rolling, you are often struck by what a soulful and rootsy football man the Spurs boss is. For instance, he can articulate brilliantly his opposition to VAR and how it will take so much emotion out of a passionate game. And when he reminisces about his own playing days as a street fighter of an Argentinian centre-half, Pochettino's eyes dance like a man in love with his trade. But when it comes to his insistence that the important thing is being consistently in the top four and playing in the Champions League, rather than winning trophies, he sounds more like a businessman such as Levy than his own true self. Poch sounds more like Levy the businessman than Solskjaer the United boss when talking about qualifying for the Champions League. This is not to overly criticize Pochettino's team selection at Palace, where he made 7 changes in an FA Cup fourth-round tie crammed tightly between last Thursday's Carabao Cup semi-final second leg at Chelsea and tomorrow's league match with Watford. Given the scale of Tottenham's injury list and the lack of investment in players, he was left in an extremely difficult situation. But for one full-back, Kyle Walker-Peters, giving away a daft penalty and another Kieran Trippier, missing a spot kick, Tottenham might still have won the tie. So it is not one Spurs team sheet, but Pochettino's long-held attitude towards domestic cup competitions which blemishes his reputation. Pochettino may have fielded a slightly weakened team at Crystal Palace, but could not have foreseen the errors from his fullbacks Kyle Walker-Peters and Kieran Trippier. Spurs fans, of course, will be glad of anything which lessens his chances of leaving for Old Trafford. They want this outstanding manager to lead them into their new stadium. Yet will Pochettino be remembered as a better boss than Keith Birkinshaw, who won 2 FA Cups and a UEFA Cup in the 1980s? Only if you believe that football is about balance sheets rather than glory. And that is a debate in which Pochettino and Solskjaer take opposing sides. If Marko Arnautovic returns to the West Ham side at Wolves tonight, Hammers supporters ought to let him know how they feel. How they feel about a short-term mercenary agitating for a move to China, and even suggesting he was motivated by challenging for trophies there. Marko Arnautovic's U-turn from being set on a move to China to suddenly signing a new contract could lead to a mixed reaction tonight. How they feel about him making himself unavailable for selection, and then being rewarded with a new contract and a pay rise. How they feel about him releasing a David Brent-style video about his new contract within minutes of his club being knocked out of the FA Cup by League One's bottom club Wimbledon. And how they feel about the Austrian striker trying to soft-soap them by using the ludicrous crossed arms, irons, gesture and waffling on about bubbles, as if West Ham United actually matters to him. So the FA wanted their flagship tournament to be used as a guinea pig for the dreaded VAR, but they didn't want it enough to fund its use at all venues. The very fact that VAR is used in some FA Cup matches and not others is causing the competition its own problems. This has led to the worst of both worlds, where a clear error like the awarding of Millwall's second goal against Everton looks even worse when others are disallowed in the same competition on the same weekend. People at the FA often mutter, correctly, that Premier League chiefs do much to damage the FA Cup. But sometimes they do a pretty good job of tarnishing their crown jewel all by themselves. When the final whistle blew at Selhurst Park on Sunday, 39-year-old Julian Speroni was afforded a standing ovation for breaking a club record with his 112th clean sheet, on what is now a rare outing from a club stalwart who is third-choice keeper. News Group Newspapers Limited. Julian Speroni was rightly given a standing ovation, but Callum Hudson-Odoi has not even come close to earning a big send-off at Stamford Bridge. A couple of hours later, Callum Hudson-Odoi gave himself a similarly dramatic send-off after scoring on his 15th senior appearance for Chelsea, having previously requested a transfer. Hudson-Odoi is a fine young talent, and an eventual move to Bayern Munich would be admirably bold, but please spare us the grand farewells until you've actually earned one. Gary Neville was recalling the epic semi-final replay between Manchester United-Arsenal, settled by a Ryan Giggs masterpiece in 1999, when he uttered one of the saddest lines I've ever read from a footballer. Former Manchester United defender Gary Neville admitted the only game he smiled in was the famous FA Cup victory over Arsenal in 1999. It was the only time in a football match where I smiled when I was playing, said a man who won 8 Premier Leagues, 2 Champions Leagues, 5 domestic cups and played 85 times for England. What a genuine pity that he enjoyed so little of it at the time. Despite leading Notts County, the world's oldest league club, to the brink of no longer being a league club, you must admire the efficiency of Big Alan Hardy. The Notts County owner had quite the Sunday, managing to tweet out a rather crude picture and put his club on the market in the space of hours. On Sunday, Notts owner Hardy accidentally tweeted a photo of his Tajer and put his club up for sale. It takes most blokes far longer to achieve a complete personal and professional meltdown. England cricket coach Trevor Bayliss says he is at a loss to explain how England were humiliated in a 381-run walloping by the West Indies in the first test. Trevor